Ever wondered what the FBI's files on Michael Jackson really said?
Oh, yeah.
Today, we're going to be diving deep into some declassified documents, specifically those dealing with the child molestation allegations from the 1990s and the 2000s.
Okay.
We've got redacted files from a bunch of different investigations.
Oh.
And while we're not here for the, tabloid drama,
Right.
these files actually give us a pretty interesting peek behind the curtain at how the FBI operates.
Yeah.
The kinds of information they gather and how they actually end up working with other agencies.
It's fascinating stuff. A lot of times we think about the FBI, they're leading every investigation, but that's not always the case.
Right.
Yeah.
Our first set of files is from 1993.
Okay.
And it really highlights that. A 13-year-old British boy claimed Michael Jackson made sexually explicit phone calls to him.
Oh, wow.
All the way back in 1979.
Oh, wow.
Years later, this information surfaced during the initial Jackson scandal.
Oh, right.
And it reached the FBI through a letter from London.
So very interesting.
Yeah.
Instead of launching their own full-blown investigation, the FBI forwarded this information to the Los Angeles Police Department.
Oh, interesting.
The FBI is very aware of jurisdictional boundaries.
Right.
And they recognize that the LAPD was much better positioned to handle a case that originated in Los Angeles.
Yeah, they definitely have more expertise in that area.
Exactly. So it's almost like the FBI was acting as a support system,
Right.
sharing information and expertise with the LAPD.
Yeah, I mean, they were a specialized resource.
Right.
And this is even more evident when the LAPD and the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Office detectives
Oh, wow.
went to Manila to interview a Filipino couple,
Okay.
the Quindoys. They were former Neverland Ranch employees who claimed to have witnessed inappropriate behavior by Jackson.
But there's a twist, right?
Yes.
The Quindoys' motives were questioned. Allegations of a book deal and unpaid wages
Right.
made their claims a bit murky.
Yeah, it gets interesting there. It forces you to think, what's the weight of these allegations when you have an accuser that might have ulterior motives?
Right.
How do you, as the listener,
Yeah.
interpret that kind of situation?
Yeah.
It adds another layer of complexity
Okay.
to an already sensitive case.
Absolutely. It reminds us that there's always multiple perspectives
For sure.
and that we shouldn't jump to conclusions based on just a single source.
Right.
But even with all those questions swirling around the Quindoys, the FBI continued to play a crucial role, mainly by assisting with the international aspects of the investigation.
Yeah, and that really underscores that the FBI's approach isn't always about taking center stage.
Yeah.
They often work behind the scenes, lending their expertise and their resources to local authorities.
Okay, so that was 1993.
Okay.
Then we jump ahead to 2004, new set of allegations from another minor.
Right.
This time the FBI's involvement looks a little different, doesn't it?
It does.
Mm.
Yeah, in 2004, they took on a more hands-on role, providing consultation and support directly to the Santa Barbara District Attorney's Office.
Interesting.
They were advising on everything from, how to approach the case to potential expert testimony
Okay.
that they could offer, and even specialized techniques for interviewing children who may have been victims of abuse.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they're still not leading the investigation.
Right.
But they're definitely more involved in shaping the strategy.
Absolutely. But here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
The FBI was also actively investigating whether any federal laws were broken.
Wow.
This included looking into the Mann Act,
Okay.
which prohibits transporting minors across state lines for illegal sexual purposes.
That significantly raises the stakes.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And they were also looking into potential computer crimes,
Okay.
like possession or distribution of child pornography.
Wow.
Yeah, these investigations weren't limited to just one location either.
Right.
We see different FBI field offices involved, from Los Angeles to New York and even Miami.
So this wasn't just a local issue anymore.
No, not at all.
Wow.
This was a complex, multifaceted investigation spanning multiple states
Yeah.
and involving some very serious potential offenses.
Right.
And to manage all of this, a special agent was even assigned to assist the Santa Barbara DA's office directly.
Okay.
This level of involvement is a big step up from their role in 1993.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the FBI's involvement is evolving, becoming more direct and complex
Right.
as new allegations and potential violations emerge.
Exactly.
And this is where those behind-the-scenes details in the files get really fascinating.
Yeah.
We see glimpses of all the communication happening between the different FBI field offices, their headquarters, and other agencies.
Right.
Teletypes, faxes, phone calls.
Wow.
It really paints a picture of the collaborative effort involved in a high-profile case like this.
Yeah. And then there's how the FBI classified the case. Initially, it was labeled domestic police cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
But later on, it became a 305 matter.
Interesting.
What's so fascinating here is that these terms give us a glimpse into the FBI's internal systems for categorizing and managing their investigations.
Right.
A 305 matter, for instance, indicates an investigation related to potential violations of federal law.
So it's like learning the secret code of the FBI.
Exactly.
That's really neat.
And of course, we can't forget about the redactions.
Oh, right.
That these files are heavily redacted.
Yeah.
Which naturally makes you wonder, what's being hidden? What information was considered so sensitive that it had to be blacked out?
Yeah, it adds a real air of mystery, doesn't it?
It does.
It makes you want to just dig even deeper and find out what's behind those black bars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And sometimes those redactions can be more telling than the information that's actually visible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it speaks to that delicate balance that the FBI has to strike between transparency and protecting sensitive information.
So we've talked about the different ways the FBI was involved, but what about the evidence itself? What did they actually find?
Well, those potential federal violations we mentioned, those investigations led to some pretty interesting discoveries.
Yeah.
One document mentions that the FBI received a video cassette tape and a video print for analysis,
Okay.
and that this material was flagged as potentially containing child pornography.
That's incredibly serious.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
And it highlights just how broad the FBI's expertise is. They're not just dealing with bank robberies and espionage.
Right.
They're tackling some of the darkest corners of criminal activity.
Yeah. It's a reminder that sometimes the truth can be really disturbing. But, it's important to remember that these files, as fascinating as they are, represent just a fraction of the FBI's involvement in the Michael Jackson case.
Right.
There's a lot we're not seeing. Information that's still redacted or classified.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
We're getting a glimpse into the investigation.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that we're not seeing the complete picture. There's a whole other layer of information that remains hidden from public view.
It makes you wonder what else might be lurking in those files. But even with the information we do have, it's clear that this deep dive has revealed a lot about how the FBI operates in a high-profile, complex case like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've seen their attention to jurisdictional boundaries, their willingness to collaborate with other agencies,
Mm-hmm.
and their ability to provide specialized expertise in very sensitive situations.
Right.
We've also seen how their role can actually evolve as an investigation unfolds, becoming more direct and involved as needed.
It's like watching a masterclass in investigation and interagency cooperation.
It is. But these files also raise some important questions that go beyond just the specifics of this case.
Oh, okay.
They make you think about celebrity culture,
Right.
the intense media scrutiny that surrounds these kinds of allegations.
Yeah. And the fundamental right to the presumption of innocence.
It's a reminder that even with all the evidence and attention, the truth can still be elusive, and that everyone, regardless of their fame or fortune, deserves a fair trial and a chance to defend themselves.
Absolutely. And these FBI files provide a very unique perspective on how that process plays out in the real world with all of its complexities and nuances. We see the meticulous gathering of information, the careful analysis of evidence, and the constant communication between different agencies. It's a reminder that justice isn't a simple equation.
Yeah.
It's a very complex system with many moving parts.
And ultimately, Michael Jackson was acquitted of all charges in 2005.
Right.
And that led the FBI to administratively close its case.
Yeah, that's an important detail. Administratively closed means that the FBI decided not to pursue further action, often due to a lack of evidence to support a federal prosecution.
Okay.
This doesn't necessarily mean that they found nothing, but it does signify the end of their active involvement.
These files, while fascinating, don't offer a definitive answer on whether or not the FBI uncovered concrete evidence of federal crimes.
Right.
There's a certain ambiguity that remains.
So we're left with this fascinating glimpse into the FBI's process, but also with a lot of unanswered questions.
That's the nature of these kinds of investigations. They're rarely neat and tidy. They're often loose ends and lingering doubts. But I think that's what makes them so compelling. They challenge us to think critically,
Yeah.
to weigh the evidence and to grapple with that ambiguity that often surrounds these very complex situations.
Yeah. It's a reminder that the truth isn't always black and white. There are shades of gray, and sometimes we're left to draw our own conclusions based on the available information. But it's important to approach those conclusions with caution, recognizing that there might be pieces of the puzzle we're still missing.
Right.
Yeah, it's like we've been given this rare peek into this high-stakes puzzle, but some of the pieces are still missing.
Right. And that's what makes it so thought-provoking. These files aren't just about, one celebrity case.
Right.
They offer like a broader perspective on how institutions like the FBI function.
Yeah.
We see the intricate processes that they use to investigate really complex allegations, how they navigate those jurisdictional boundaries,
Right.
and the importance of collaboration with other agencies to ensure a thorough and impartial process.
Yeah, it's like a real-life case study in law enforcement and criminal justice.
Exactly. And it reminds us that these processes exist for a reason.
Yeah.
They're designed to protect everyone involved,
Yeah.
to ensure that justice is served,
Yeah.
and to uphold that presumption of innocence until proven guilty.
It's a good reminder that, we shouldn't rush to judgment based on headlines or incomplete information.
Right.
There's always more to the story than what we see on the surface.
And these files encourage us to dig deeper,
Yeah.
to question our assumptions, and to consider those multiple perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
They remind us the truth is rarely black and white, especially in cases like this.
So what does this all mean for us, the listeners? Why should we care about these decades-old FBI files on Michael Jackson?
I think it goes beyond just this one case. It's about understanding the systems that are in place to investigate these allegations and to uphold the law.
Right.
It's about recognizing the complexities of these situations and the human impact that they have on everyone involved.
It's a reminder that behind the headlines and the media frenzy, there are real people whose lives are deeply affected by these events.
Absolutely. And it encourages us to think critically about the information that we consume, to challenge our own biases, and to approach these sensitive topics with empathy and a willingness to understand.
As we wrap up this Dink Dive, I'm left with this sense of awe at the intricacies of the investigative process and a renewed appreciation for the importance of due process.
Well, I hope it sparked a curiosity in you to learn more about the FBI, the legal system, and the challenges of investigating these kinds of cases. These files offer a fascinating window into a world that's often hidden from view.
For sure.
And they raise questions that continue to resonate today.
Yeah, and maybe they'll inspire you to do a little digging of your own.
Right.
Who knows what other secrets are waiting to be uncovered?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Keep asking questions.
Yeah.
Keep exploring and keep an open mind.
Right.
That's what makes the world such a fascinating place.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, stay curious.